We are going to talk about Sunday Night Football. We have the San Francisco 49ers, who are at home versus the Philadelphia Eagles, who I believe I saw today have one wide receiver at practice, Greg Ward. LaMarca, any other news and notes here, things you are paying attention to? Right now, we have the 49ers as a 7-point favorite, over-under at 46.
Yeah, I mean, I saw earlier in the week that Lane Johnson was questionable. I'm not sure. I'm looking up. He did practice. Oh no, that was last week. Doesn't look like we have any updates on Lane Johnson at the moment. But if he is out, this Eagles offensive line is just going to be an absolute dumpster fire. They already have 3 guys who are down. So this looks like a situation where they could be in some serious trouble.
Yeah, it's if you rostered Miles Sanders last week, you know how frustrating this offensive line is right now. Carson Wentz also just looks completely discombobulated. You have to assume that the Cincinnati game was the get right spot, and now they're going on the road to San Francisco, who continues to find ways to win even without Jimmy Garoppolo, George Kittle, who is expected to be back. They are only getting healthier. Joe, what are you seeing here in this game?
I think you said it. I think that the Greg Ward play is really interesting. Like, he's someone that last year we were using quite a bit in DFS. He had 11 targets last week. So I think someone like that makes a ton of sense, especially if there's going to be offensive line issues. We've been talking about these offensive line issues for most of the beginning of the year, I feel like, with Philly, but they're just not getting better. So it's like these guys that I think can get it done in the intermediate areas. I think that just like these downfield weapons, I just don't really have a lot of, I guess, concern that they're going to be able to really get deep, because there's not going to be enough time for Wentz, and we've seen how bad Wentz has been so far. I think that's got to be correlated with this offensive line play for sure. I don't think that everyone just wants to rip on Wentz to start the year, but I think a ton of it just has to do with how much this offensive line has been struggling. You guys agree?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a Carson Wentz stan by any stretch of the imagination, but it's so much easier to play quarterback when you have some blocking, and the Eagles offensive line has just been so bad. And not only that, he has had no weapons. I mean, even like Dallas Goddard, is dealing with an injury now. Like, it has just been really, really, really rough for the Eagles.
We got PayPal my money in the chat. He's upset how serious I am. I'm trying to host a show, man. I'm trying to play point guard, get LaMarca and Holka in space. We are talking about Sunday Night Football. Brandon Eyuk is someone I'm specifically interested in. He looked really great in his debut after being a little banged up early on in the season. 8 targets, plus he had 3 rushes for 31 yards and got in the end zone on that end-around touchdown. It seems like Deebo Samuel is going to miss another week, perhaps. Apparently, he's back healthy at practice, but the quote was he's trying to get back into game shape. What other skill position players are interesting for you guys? Obviously, we have a lot in flux with the injury situations on the 49ers.
I think one thing that to monitor as well is Desean Jackson, that injury, right? Like we mentioned before, that like it's tough for him to get completely deep down the field, but still like someone that's seeing so many air yards, just not a lot of like catchable balls so far this year. So I think that's an interesting one, and more on how it impacts the tight end situation. Like, obviously no Dallas Goedert now, so Zach Ertz. Normally we see Desean Jackson kind of create some space for him underneath, so we might not have that field stretcher in this game. Brandon Ayuk is an interesting one. I think he's one from on the San Francisco side that's interesting. Do you guys have any preference between him and Kendrick Bourne for a little bit cheaper?
I'm always going to go with Ayuk. I feel like we know what Bourne is. Ayuk, I think, is like very similar to Deebo Samuel. I mean, Kyle Shanahan clearly has his type. He even brought in Mohamed Sanu earlier in the season because he just loves these like Swiss Army knife type guys that can do it all. And Brandon Ayuk was a really good prospect. He played with N'Keal Harry at Arizona State, and the way they used him, both with the rushes and the targets, makes me pretty excited about him. That said, Joe, I mean, Kendrick Bourne is always live to get these random red zone targets. So I don't hate it if Ayuk becomes really popular.
Yeah, I agree. Ayuk is just sexy, right? Like anybody who's going to get 8 targets and carries, like that's a great formula for fantasy points. And by the way, Pete, I appreciate you playing point guard. Back in my pickup basketball days, I was definitely out there looking at Chuck. So I need the ball as much as possible.
You know what? This just reminded me, maybe you won't be thankful for me here in a sec, but I do want to go back. You just jogged my memory talking about Eyuk being sexy. I was talking 1 week ago about Mecole Hardman, and I said, this guy is so sexy, and LaMarca said, no. Let me tell you my splits of Patrick Mahomes with Sammy Watkins. Were we both right?
He played in that game, if I remember correctly.
He did. That's what I'm saying. We were both right. Sammy Watkins helped the offense, but Mecole Hardman was the one with the big game. I just want you to offer a mea culpa for all of us Mecole Hardman donkeys you were going after.
Yeah, he caught a long touchdown. We know that's what Hardman does. It still doesn't justify the fact that he was a 7th-round draft pick this summer.
Look at this guy just clutching his pearls, referencing season-long ADP. Joe, can you believe this guy?
I don't know. You guys just completely lost me on that one, if I'm being completely honest. I think that, like, as you guys were talking, I'm trying to build a lineup for this other slate, so that works out perfectly.
Joe feels like he can't be bothered to be here today, Pete.
That is not true. That is absolutely not true. I was accused of being Sleepy Joe a couple weeks ago, and now you're saying I don't even want to be here? I'm trying to figure out this running back situation in San Francisco, which is a complete disaster as well. Can we get just like, I need these running back situations where I know they're going to be like getting the majority of the touches overall, and I struggle with these ones where it's like 3 guys. Like, do you guys have any idea what to do here on this one? I think it's McKinnon, right? It has to be.
Yeah, I mean, I think what McKinnon did was pretty promising, but we also saw Jeff Wilson Jr. as kind of the ultimate vulture buzzkill. So I think it'll be an even split. Although Raheem Mostert, I believe, was back at practice today. LaMarca, how do you see this backfield shaking out with the assumption that Mostert probably misses another week?
Yeah, Mostert did miss practice today, and it seems like he's at least a week away. Yeah, listen, I am, as much as I make fun of the fantasy nerds, I'm still a part of the fantasy community, right? And Jerick McKinnon was the original Mecole Hardman, like freak athlete, did everything. I mean, he played at like Georgia Southern or Georgia State or something like that. He was a quarterback, but he's super fast. He can catch the ball, and he had plenty of opportunities last week. Now, Wilson did cut into his workload, but he was so much less efficient. He had 12 carries for 15 yards. So if that continues, I have to imagine McKinnon, peels off a little bit of a larger chunk of that split this week. But just from an upside perspective, McKinnon is for sure falls into that sexy category.
My favorite Jerick McKinnon metric, again, as LaMarca said, just absolutely blew the doors off the combine in every category. At 5'9", 209 pounds, he did 32 bench press reps. That's 225 pounds. When I got in like the best shape of my life, I was tapping out at like 5 or 6. At
nice
like,
flex, bro.
No, but I'm saying Jerick McKinnon doing 32 at 5'9", 209 is otherworldly. Like, that is insane. So there you go. Joe, any bench press stats, fun facts you have for us?
Yeah, I don't know. I've never seen a bench press score a touchdown, but I guess that's an interesting conversation to have as well. We used to always say that in hockey. We're like, oh, I never saw someone in the weight room score a goal with 45 on
that is
side.
Such a hockey player thing to say.
Yeah, LaMarca's judging me right now. I think one thing that's kind of interesting about this game overall is, like, wouldn't it be something if San Francisco ends up 3-1 with like all of these injuries they have on defense, but they somehow just grind their way there? Now we got Nick Mullins at quarterback. I mean, I don't know. This game I think is going to be a little bit more fun than the other one we talked about, but still kind of hard to figure out. I think that the running game is going to be a key factor. I'm hoping. I don't know. I would just rather have Mostert not play to make it a little bit easier to figure out. McKinnon, just a very efficient last week of 14 carries for 38 yards and a touch. So maybe we get that again. That'd be nice.
Yeah, I mean, the other kind of interesting things here, I think, are the tight ends, because we're going to have George Kittle in his first game back here after a while. He's obviously just a smash ceiling type play anytime he's on the field. And especially without Debo back, he's going to step right in as usual, be that number 1 wide receiver. And then on the flip side of the ball, Zach Ertz, there's no Dallas Goedert. All of the wide receivers outside of Greg Ward and John Hightower are out for the Eagles. Zach Ertz should command a ton of targets here. LaMarca, how are you feeling about these tight ends?
Yeah, I mean, if you're playing like the Thursday through Monday DFS slate, I don't know how you don't lock button Zach Ertz for, your cash team at a minimum. I mean, he had 10 targets last week. He's 5,300. He played basically every snap. Like, it is his show in Philly. And, San Francisco's defense, while still good last week versus the Giants, they are missing so many guys. Um, Maybe Carson Wentz can bounce back a little bit. I don't know. Like, I thought I saw a stat. It was absolutely ridiculous. San Francisco had 60% of their salary cap not dressed last week. 60%.
It's wild. Absolutely wild. We got Willis is awesome in the chat. Our pal saying Nick Mullins is good. I agree. And the other thing is we've seen, like, as someone who bet against the 49ers last week, I was like, take the Giants, there's no way that they should be, 4-point underdogs at home to a backup quarterback. And here you go, Kyle Shanahan scheming these guys into really good spots, putting his players into positions to succeed. Joe, do you have a Nick Mullins take?
I think I ended up playing him last year at one point because he runs a little bit, right? And he was like almost a stone min. So I'm not scared of some Nick Mullins for fantasy for sure. I don't know. I don't have like he's not someone that like pushes the ball downfield a ton either. So it's kind of gross. Like we talked about like a real quarterback yet today? I don't think we have. Like this is just a tough island game week. I guess we have one more after this, but yeah, I don't know. Nick Mullins is probably better than people realize, at least for fantasy.
Yeah, let's talk about some quote unquote real quarterbacks. Monday Night Football. We have the Atlanta Falcons coming off of just two absolutely brutal losses after blowing leads. Now they are on the road in Green Bay. Green Bay's -7. Aaron Rodgers, after everyone has been kind of down on him throughout the offseason, LaMarca, he looks really, really good.
Really good. His AYA right now is at like 10.5 or maybe even higher than that, which is, around what it was when he won the MVP back in 2011. He looks fantastic. And I was very low on Green Bay entering the season. They massively outperformed their, Pythagorean win expectation last year. And then they spent their first two picks on guys who have combined for like 11 snaps this season. So I just didn't see it. But Rodgers, I don't know if maybe he got pissed off at the Jordan Love thing. I don't know if he found the fountain of youth. Maybe breaking up with Danica Patrick was good for him. But whatever it is, like, the guy looks rejuvenated this year. And he should get Devontae Adams back this week and is taking on a Falcons defense that I would literally play you against them at this point, Pete. Like, that's how bad they are. I don't see any reason why you wouldn't go right back to the Packers this week.
Yeah, you mentioned Devontae Adams, the Falcons and Packers in similar spots with Julio Jones and Devontae Adams not playing last week. I was checking in on Gene Bramall's injury report over at Football Guys. He does like the idea of them getting that extra day to rest up here for Monday Night Football. He says Adams is slightly more likely to play than Jones. It seems like Julio is truly questionable right now with that hamstring. Joe, how do you feel about these offenses with and without these alpha wide receivers?
Yeah, I think one thing that's interesting about Aaron Rodgers is that when Devontae Adams isn't there, he's pretty content just to like really spread the ball around. There's not like anyone that he's really been like completely locking into. Maybe it's an Aaron Jones spot. I think his ceiling is as large as any. Like, I guess if we're going to take Julio and Devontae Adams out of it, is it Aaron Jones versus Todd Gurley? Because if so, I'd rather be on the Aaron Jones side of that. So that's kind of where I'm at with that side of it. I think this game's is a good one for fantasy overall. I think that the Packers could roll here. I'm not a big Falcons guy overall. We talked about it earlier in the season, but this team feels like it had such a large range of outcomes. It could have been a team that was like 8-8 and squeaking into the playoffs, or it could have been a team that was only going to win a couple games. So I think we've kind of seen what their defense is capable of so far, and it's not a whole lot.
Yeah, and I will say, I mean, I do agree with you completely. I mean, Aaron Jones is going to be the biggest beneficiary when Adams is out. They're going to just have to rely on him for those explosive plays. To me, Todd Gurley is just beyond dust. He's not catching any passes. He's losing work to Brian Hill. Whereas we saw Calvin Ridley step up and play that alpha wide receiver role. One interesting note from my pal Pat Carrain, who is looking into the average depth of target there, is when Julio plays, he's the one kind of taking the lid off with some of those deeper routes, and Calvin Ridley's working in the intermediary. Julio's out last week, and Calvin Ridley's ADOT jumped. He was getting used deep down the field, and then they were using Russell Gage before he got hurt, and Olamide Zaccheaus underneath. Yeah, so baby. To me, Calvin Ridley's that guy that just steps right up. He's had 3 straight games over 100 yards. Just looks like an absolute alpha that can play all of these different positions. LaMarca, are you excited about Ridley?
Yeah, of course. I mean, there were a lot of sharp people that told me Calvin Ridley was going to have a huge year before the season. I know Sean Corner, who is about as good as it comes in the projection market, has exposure on Ridley to lead the league in receiving yards, and he looks basically situation proof at this point. I mean, he saw double-digit targets all 3 games. 2 of those have come with Julio, 1 without. I don't think he's the kind of guy that, needs Julio next to him to, draw the defensive coverage. He can thrive as the number 1, and he can thrive as the number 2. So there's really no situation where you should be scared to play Ridley this season.
There also was an important news thing that actually just came out 30 minutes ago for the Packers here. And Allen Lazard underwent core muscle surgery. He's out indefinitely, and he's coming off a huge game, 6-catch, 146-yard performance against the Saints. Really kind of slid in as that alpha wide receiver role with Adams out. This really starts to bump up some of the ancillary pieces like MVS and also the tight ends. Robert Tonyan coming off a good game. Joe, what is your reaction to Lazard being out and how it might impact some of these other pieces?
Yeah, if anyone's been watching some of the other shows we have on Line Movement, we've been talking a lot about this core injury in hockey. Steven Stamkos, actually, it should have ended his season. He came back and ended up playing 1 game in the playoffs before Tampa Bay won the Stanley Cup, which was, I guess it was interesting to kind of look into that injury a little bit because like these guys can be out a long time. And if they come back too early, it can really debilitate them going forward. So that's one to monitor for sure. I don't think that's going to be a quick return for him. I think MVS is the guy that I'd be most excited about. I think he's someone that's flashed some things in the regular season and certainly in the preseason over the last couple of years. So I think that one's really interesting. I think that you guys said it, but I think we should hammer this home. Like Calvin Ridley in this spot, we've seen Julio have some massive games against Green Bay in the past. Yeah. So I actually really like the Calvin Ridley thing. I think that's the one. If we're going to go overweight in a spot, maybe if everyone's going overweight on Aaron Jones, maybe we go on the Calvin Ridley side and get a little bit different.
Yeah, I think if you're looking at captain plays, I mean, Aaron Jones and Calvin Ridley are the 2 guys in this game that can go for 50 points from that spot. So the one thing I would say about MVS is I don't know if his role is going to change a ton, just the way they use him as more of the clear out guy. He had 98 air yards last week. He ran a ton of routes, but isn't seeing a ton of targets. He's going to be kind of that like Michael Gallup play where he's going to have multiple bad games, but if it hits, it'll probably hit in a big way. I think it ultimately might be Robert Tonyan who's the biggest beneficiary here, especially if Adams isn't quite full strength. He had, 5 targets, 5 catches, 50 yards in the touchdown. He seems to be one of Rodgers' new favorite guys. Anyone else that you're interested in this game, LaMarca, before we move on?
It's looking real thin in that Green Bay wide receiver room without Lazard. I mean, they were already using like Tyler Ervin a lot as a wide receiver last week. I really think it could be the Devontae Adams and Aaron Jones show if Lazard is out. Adams was already a guy that we were, sort of expecting like a 30% market share for. And I honestly might increase that with Lazard out of the lineup. Like there is just not much here to take away from Devontae.
Yeah, and you say that it's honestly not that different for the Falcons too if Julio's out, because like beyond Ridley, Russell Gage had the concussion, he left. I haven't heard an update about him if he's going to be able to play this week. And then they get really thin. On top of that, Hayden Hurst, who comes over from the Ravens, people kind of had high hopes for him to slide in and just be the Austin Hooper 1-for-1 replacement. He's only getting targets on 13.5% of his routes run. That's concerning. He had the one busted play touchdown a couple weeks ago, but they're kind of thin here too, and all they want to do is pass. So this might be an incredibly concentrated target tree on both sides of the ball. Joe, any final thoughts on this game? Do you have a bet you like? Green Bay -7, pretty big over-under, 56.5.
Yeah, I think the over-under is a little bit of a stay away for me. I think Green Bay covers here, though. I think that's the one that I think I talked about on the Bets Against the Spread show earlier this week on Tuesday. So I'm going to stick with that one. I think this game could definitely have some points, but I think that's a pretty aggressive over-under. That might have even moved a little bit since the beginning of the year. Robert Tonyan's the one I want to look into a little bit more because I think that's one on the cheaper side of things that makes a ton of sense. He's scored 2 touchdowns back-to-back weeks, but also like in the red zone. It looks like he's becoming a target for Aaron Rodgers. So I think that one's a really sharp call for sure.
I'm honestly, maybe I'm just a little burned after having a Falcons double stack in one of my lineups last week, but I'm a little concerned about the Falcons being able to on the road push this game over 56.5, especially if Julio Jones doesn't play. They were just really efficient and struggled moving the ball without him. All they had was Ridley on offense. LaMarca, are you with me here on the under, or you think this thing still shoots out?
I mean, I think the Packers might hang 40 by themselves. So to me, that's the bet. I like the Packers here. The thing about Rodgers is he's a bit weird as an elite quarterback. Like normally you see elite quarterbacks have insane records when they're underdogs. Like Patrick Mahomes now is 6-0-1 against the spread as an underdog after they beat the Ravens last week. Rodgers really isn't like that. He's not the kind of guy that typically thrives with points. But as a favorite, he dominates. Since 2010, 50, 29, and 3 against the spread as a home favorite. So if we think that Rodgers is back to being vintage Rodgers, history suggests that he will cover in this spot.
Yeah, I'm with you. If I did bet the over-under, I'd take the under, but I do think Green Bay -7. And what do we think this jumps to if Julio is officially ruled out? I mean, he's worth a point or two, right?
I would think so.
I would say he's worth, a 1.5, 2 points, something like that.
Yeah, and I would assume, would you assume this line is factoring in him playing as is?
I would think so. When you I guess he's been questionable all week. Like, as he's been practicing or limited, is that basically what it is? You never know with Julio because he's limited.
Julio
all the
never
time anyway.
practices.
Yeah,
when
so
he's
it's like so hard to tell.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think it sounds pretty bad. Like the quotes even last week were like, yeah, this hamstring injury is way worse than people let on when it was initially reported. So I think it could be trouble. So if you do want to get in early on this line, we're obviously recording this on Thursday. If you're listening to this later, and that line still holds and the reports are getting more bearish on Julio, we definitely seem to collectively like the Green Bay side here. All right, we are a few minutes away from kickoff here. The lock on DraftKings is in 1 minute and 30 seconds. If you are making any last minute tweaks, I'm sitting here looking at my lineups, LaMarca, and I apparently have 17% Josh Malone. How do you feel about that?
Oh, not good at all. Not good at all.
That's what you're going to tell the Showdown thought leader he doesn't know what he's doing?
You asked.
No, you're right. You're right.
I just pivoted my lineup in the last 2 minutes, and now I can't remember what I had before. So this is not good. This is not. Yeah,
let's hear your lineup, Joe. You were working on this during the show. LaMarca and I doing the heavy lifting while you build a Showdown lineup. What did you end up with over there?
Yeah, hey, for the record, we all didn't have time today to build the 20 teams that you built, so I just had to jump on and do a little single entry action here. So I did kind of put my money where my mouth is. Just completely removed Melvin Gordon from my player pool. So I got Jerry Jeudy at captain. As of now, I do not have the Denver quarterback on my team. I went Jeudy, Fant, Hamler, and McManus, and then Crowder and Sam Darnold on the other side. Left 1,100 on the table. What do you guys think about that? I'm going all the way to the top.
Wait,
it feels odd to have three
doesn't matter
catchers and not the quarterback.
Doesn't matter. Don't need them. You want that guy in your lineup?
If
I have him in mind.
explain to me the
There's
scenarios
going to
where
be
those
no
three
touchdowns
guys
scored,
smash.
and they're just going to dip and dunk down literally down the field. I got 15
What?
seconds. Should I change it?
I mean, you got 6, you got 5. I think you got to let it ride here. You're going to make us all look like idiots when they stall out at the 1 every drive and McManus comes in and punches it in.
Yeah, it's going to be great.
Joe Holka has no use for your stupid correlations. He's just going to jam in the best plays.
We're getting weird. Just play the best plays, Pete. You've been talking about this for years, and you literally almost made me swap off the nuts there. I'm glad I stuck with my gut.
I will say my play the best plays philosophy is definitely for the main slate. On Showdown, I'm all about Galaxy Brain plays. Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I even when we talk, Joe, like when we build our lineups and you're looking, we were talking about the Sunday night game, like it kills you in these games where the running backs don't have like projectable workloads. You hate it so much.
I can't do it, man. I physically like it goes against everything I believe in with DFS. I can't. One thing that I am going to do right now though is we're going to take a peek at our fearless leader, the CEO of our public company, i3 Interactive, is usually in the 5K queue. So I'm going to see if that's live right now because I would love to see what he's on.
Yeah, let's and he we got to give him a shout out. I don't think we've recorded since he won a seat into the, what was it? Is it FFWC?
Yeah, he is in the live final already. So nice for him.
Was
to
it last Thursday
3.
with the James Robinson captain lineup?
No, it was Sunday night, I believe. So
yeah.
It looks like we don't have. Is there not a queue for this one? Is the game so bad that there's no 5K queue? Or am I just missing it? Oh, no, there it is. No, that's not it. I don't think there's a 5K queue. Bummer.
All right, I'll read some ownership percentages here. Jamison Crowder, 16% in the captain, 60% utility. We have Sam Darnold, 57.5%, Judy, 45%, Herndon, 27%, Ficken, 12.8%, Jets, 20.9%. These are from the big 1.5 million Thursday night showdown, 300K to first. I'm just clicking around, checking some other things out here. Noah Fant, only 8.9% in the captain, but 54% overall. Judy, similar, only 7% in the captain. Frank Gore, 2.6 in the captain, 25% in the utility. Hamler, 20.6% utility, 2.5% in the captain. I kind of like that ownership for Hamler there, LaMarca.
Agreed. Yes. I definitely thought he would be higher owned for sure. And clearly I think I was wrong on my Melvin Gordon thing. I'm in the $100 single entry, and Crowder actually has higher captain ownership than Melvin, which I find
interesting.
Oh boy.
Yeah. In this big one, Melvin Gordon is 22.2% in the captain versus Crowder 16.4%. But yeah, I would have thought that gap would have been a little bit bigger.
Yeah, that does make me feel good about being so high on Crowder, though, that it seems like, in the higher dollar events, he is the preferred option there. So not that that means anything, the quote unquote pros get it wrong plenty, but I just looking at Crowder's projected workload, like it was hard to ignore that guy today.
We do have a question from the chat. This thing is couldn't be more relevant to what we're doing. Hello, in your opinion, which is the best football player in the world? Leo Messi, Cristiano Ronaldo, Neymar, Mbappe, Robert Lewandowski, or Zlatan Ibrahimovic? Joe, do you have a take?
Messi, easy game.
LaMarca.
Yeah, it's got to be Leo.
Yeah, of the names I recognize, it's got to be Leo.
Wait,
you don't know Bobby Lewandowski, huh?
Did you just find the 5K, Joe?
I found it. Chris is not in it though. Oh no, He is. Let's do this. All right, who's Chris's captain?
So I guessed it last week, right? Didn't I?
You did. I actually really like his team.
I'm gonna guess that his captain is Noah Fant.
Negative. Any guesses, LaMarca?
I was also gonna guess Fant. Let's go Big Rippin'.
Melvin Gordon, captain, who was the 15% captain in this. So he's got Melvin Gordon, he's got Rippin, he's got Fant, he has Jerry Jeudy, he has McManus. So he is 6-1 on Denver, and he's got P. Ryan as his one lone piece of the Jets. I kind of like this team, actually. I don't know how I
It's
feel about the 6-1. I think that's a little aggressive, but hey, Peter, you know all about these winner take alls, man. Is that GTO?
Yeah, I mean the 5-1, you can do constructions like that. How big is this one? Is it 15 or 16?
This is 12 people, I believe.
12 people.
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, how am I?
13.
I might be the $3.20 max showdown leader, but Chris is the high stakes Q showdown thought leader. So I can't disagree with his plays.
Yeah, he's the small field single entry showdown guy. Like, I think he's gotten more seats off of these type of queues than any of them so far, and he had 3 last year.
Yeah. I mean, if you're gonna do it, that's the way to do it.
Play the expense. Yeah, I mean, you have to be 13 people.
You know,
I'm not trying
just
to
drop 5K on one of these things. But
yeah, it's not like anyone's ever dumped 5K into something dumb, right, Pete?
No, I don't even know what you're talking about. I think that was a really good investment. Our winner take all super contest picks every Sunday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern. You can tune into this very channel for the Tilt Space with Joe, Michael Leone, and myself. We had a big hit last week, Joe. Nice hit there.
You had a nice hit, Pete. Why don't you tell people what happened for the ones that missed it?
Yeah, so we were sweating a collective lineup that Joe Leone and I had in the Juke. It was a Russell Wilson double stack, so we were having a lot of fun with that. We had Michael Gallup coming back, so getting Michael Gallup touchdowns, DK Metcalf at the end. Someone in the chat, LaMarca, points out to me that I'm third in the SPY. I had completely forgotten about it because I'm such a selfless individual, and I was sweating collectively with my brothers in arms. Little did I know I had placed third for 10,000 in the other lineup. Joe Leone and I finished, what was it, 5th or 6th for 8,000?
Third, wasn't it? Am I wrong?
Third.
It was like really high, I think. Because I think the top of that one is 15K. I think it might have even been second, Pete. You're trying to act all selfless. You don't even know what place we got in the actual cumulative lineup.
I just have so many, top 1% finishes these days. It's hard to keep track of them all,
Hey, man, when you're printing money at the rate that you're doing right now, like I wouldn't even care about my wins at that point either, man. Just another day. Just another day.
LaMarca, they're calling me nits because I don't want to just go shot taking and the mega millionaire and all this stuff. Where are you a shot taker or you keep the bankroll tight?
I mean, the correct answer here is I want to keep the bankroll tight, but there are plenty of times if you think you have the edge where you just got to jam it in.
All right. That I can get more sold on, going back to, what was it? The Game Changer, Joe, the $1,500 single entry, that mega millionaire. Again, obviously 1 in 600 chance at $1 million. That's pretty fun. But Joe, we've talked, you do not like that payout structure. I know you don't like that payout structure.
Well, for the record, I'm probably the last person that anyone should talk to about bankroll management because I just don't have a lot of self-control overall. But yes, anytime that you can beat 600 people and win $1 million, I don't think that the I guess the structure matters a ton. But that said, like 18% of the field being paid out, a 1.5x min cash, 39% to first. This is like one of the worst tournaments I've ever seen. It's that bad.
Yeah.
But
it's
what we're up what, about 5K so far this year through 3 weeks. I think that, I mean, we're up roughly a mega millionaire entry. So I think we might as well just double down on that, right? Because then worst case, we're going into week 5, we're even. It's a win.
Hey, you don't have to pay the taxes.
Exactly.
My thing is like, yes, having a sweat at $1 million would be absolutely unreal, but we also know that the likelihood of that happening is a small percentage. Whereas
I don't like this negative Pete right now. I really don't. You win a couple weeks and now you think you can't win $1 million. What are we doing this for? We're doing this for content, man. You imagine we win $1 million on the Tilt Space? We'd have to change the name of the show.
You're right. Yeah, I'm not going to get bullied on the show for being a nit. Behind closed doors, I will express my concerns about our collective bankroll management. I can't believe can you believe it, LaMarca? In a world where, like, how is it that Joe and Leone don't have self-control and I am the one that does? How is that possible?
That is
the voice of reason
of a DFS tout, right? And I'm not calling you guys touts, but it's like, bankroll management is so important. You have to nurture your bankroll. You have to grow it responsibly. But then behind closed doors, these guys are just degenerates.
Please scour the internet if you can find any sort of bankroll, anything I've done. It doesn't exist.
Yeah. I know it. I would never think it, Joe, because you're so measured and thoughtful in your analysis. And then little do I know, I get in the DMs and Joe's like, yeah, let's just put it all on red. Let that roulette wheel spin.
I will say, Joe, you're very good at like game selection, which to me, game selection is an extension of bankroll management, you know?
I'd say that's true.
Like you said, you want to find the contests where you can get the 2x min payout, where it's a relatively flat payout structure. So like that to me, it goes hand in hand with bankroll management. So I would say that because you do that, you do at least have some restraint.
That's fair. And to be honest, Pete's the opposite. Pete doesn't care about these tournaments at all. He's trying to get us to play the SPY. It's one of the worst tournaments on DraftKings, literally. It's like everything we just said about the Mega Millionaire. The SPY's almost as bad, yet Pete is making us play that for the tilt space as well.
This is the thing, Joe. You talk out both sides of your mouth. You go, 1 in 600 chance at $1 million. It's like, okay, well, I'm only competing against a bunch of people putting in one lineup, and I can win $100,000. So same deal, brother.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm not talking out of both sides of my mouth, what are we doing here, man? That's what we get paid for. Then you're never wrong.
Twitter is blowing up about something Sam Darnold did. My stream is on a bit of a delay here. We're gonna have to. Do either of you guys have what happened here?
Let's see.
I think Sam Darnold rushed for a touchdown. Yeah, he rushed for a 16-yard. No, a 57-yard touchdown.
Come on.
That's
46 yards, right? That's what DK says at least.
Okay. Holy cow.
Guys, how's my one quarterback lineup looking now, fellas? Looking pretty good.
I'm glad I don't have any bets on the under here, right?
Yeah.
This is the problem with watching the NFL Network on my Roku is I feel like I'm always like a full minute and a half behind live. This is what happened on the Tilt Space where the chat was spoiling stuff for us, but I actually don't mind. I don't mind getting spoiled.
I think when Sam Darnold has a 46-yard rushing touchdown, we probably call it, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I just want to see it, and then
and now Pete's frozen.
Behind. I'm frozen?
Now you're back.
You're back.
You're back.
How? I'm not frozen. I'm not frozen. I'm hardwired in over here. I've never been frozen. All right. Guys, thank you for hanging out with us tonight on the Thursday Night Football pre-kickoff line movement show. Good luck this weekend for Joe Holka, for Matt LaMarca. I'm Peter Overzet. You guys can tune in with us on Sunday morning at 11 a.m. for the pre-main slate show. And then, of course, the Tilt Space at 6:30 p.m. Eastern. Hit the subscribe button. Give us some likes. If you get a second to do so, it would help us out. We will see you guys next week on the Thursday Night Football pre-kickoff show.